Aggregated is about roadmap. Every epic will be having different user stories and all everything in this particular epic. Now we were going for settings where we have to do different settings here. So whenever we are going for settings, normally there will be an option where we can see here in reference to the settings of the project itself is concerned. We'll be having of different things. So one is about the settings in reference to the summary. So normally summary and all that, so we don't do any kind of references, all that stuff. Next, people. People means whatever the settings you need to give some kind of access and all everything that we have to see. So because we need to add different people here. So depends on the kind of role and all, whatever the people we were adding and all everything will be different. Now I'm just selecting in people in terms of the administrator is what I have selected here. Now what is that we can do here is that we can add people. Simply we can add people here. And if you have to type the name of the person whom you need to add, right? So for example, you are selecting a person called ram@gmail.com as an invitee. There must be some person here. At the same time, we are selecting as Raj, right? So Raj is the one we are selecting here as Raj. Software user as 9 I have selected. At the same time, I have selected one more as Shweta, right? So if there is any called up in any name called Shweta and all everything can also be added here. Right? So that also there. So it's purely depends upon the people whom we have identified so far and all everything has to be taken into an account here. Now what is that we can do is that whatever the people you need to add, so those people can be added here, and about whatever the role we are going to provide for them and all everything has to be entered. So normally this role usually it's considered as administrator. So wherein I'm just selecting is add, so that new people as Raj 9 has added as a administrator in terms of the people I'm talking about. So this, if you want to remove, there is an option called remove here. If you want to remove Raj 9 as the admin and all, everything we have an option there, we can remove this also. So otherwise you can keep it as it is. So there is nothing to be added more after. Next, in reference to the add people itself is concerned here, as I mentioned you, for example, Venu, right? So Venu is it. So Venu@gmail.com is what the person means, whoever the people we have identified, or we are adding people based upon their email address, right? So division itm@gmail.com, right? So for example, I was just mentioning it, right? So division itm@gmail.com is what the mail ID I have added. So now I'm just adding one more as teamuln@gmail.com. Okay, now I'm adding this as well. At the same time, I'm adding teamuln32@gmail.com. Okay, so these are the three mail IDs I have added. Wherein if I want, I can give administrators and all everything. So where I can add these people. So there is a possibility where we can add different people and all everything here, right? So if you want to see view users, we have an option where you can see the view users here. Just simply clicking on view so that you can see the view users, all that stuff here itself. Right, so for that you have to make sure you need to log in first. Whenever you're logging in, you can see all the users, all that stuff, right? So that is what one thing we can do. Now in reference to the permissions itself is concerned, that here we have to give permissions to the people or to the different things, like if you want to administrate the project, all that stuff, generally these permissions should be given for a project called ERP, because we have to provide permissions, right? So we have to enable permissions, all that things has to be done here. So these permissions will be of different things. This will be used for. For example, project permissions will be different. At the same time, administrator permissions will be of different types. At the same time, if you want to browse projects or manage sprints, everything can be done under the permissions column. So here there are different actions where you want to edit the permissions. Here you have an option. Means if you want to edit any kind of permissions in reference to the application for ERP software itself is concerned, here you can see beside this permission helper, you can see an option called actions, right? So just double click there, edit permissions, right? So edit permissions is one option. At the same time, use a different scheme. Now I'm just selecting use a different scheme here, right? Now this is a different scheme where you can see this is a different thing, right? So here what is that we are doing administration, we are associating permissions where we have to select the scheme. What was the scheme here? Select a scheme is that ERP software permission scheme is what we have selected, where if you want to associate, you can associate it. Otherwise, what is that we can do is that we are going back because permission scheme and all everything won't be changed. Now what is that we need to do here is that we need to edit the permissions, right? Editing permissions is what is required. So here you can add it. For example, administrator projects. What is the project role, right? So if you want to update the information, you can update. For example, update. So what is that I can do? For example, what administration permissions I have to provide? Let's say that, for example, project role. I am granting that project role here. Project role and all everything I am accessing to the administrator. This is what I can do. Next, I am giving application access also, right? So wherein application access of Jira software I am adding here. Now I am just adding the group, right? So whatever the group do we have and all everything, that group has to be added. So that users group of Rajul and 9 has been added here. Next, public, I am not adding anyone here. Now, project lead, for example, project lead was also added here. Now, user customer value as well as group customer value has to be given, right? So approver has to be given for these people here. So for epic status, right? So this is what I have added. So I'm just clicking on update so that you can update the permissions in relating to the project. Means being an administrator, whenever you want to update information and all, where we have an option here where we can update all the required informations on that, right? Custom fields. Pro is not extending first. Please add system custom fields and all. Right. Okay, let me take out. Right. So we have granted permissions for the custom field, all that stuff, right? So that is what we have done. Now what we have to do is that we have updated. So project role was given for administrator. At the same time, we have given access for the project access person. At the same time, any logged in user can be added. Application access has been given only for the Jira software. Even group, Raj 9 is the group which was added here. At the same time, if you want to group customer fields and values and all that, so change type is the value you have identified. This is what I have updated. So permissions, providing permissions in reference to the project is what we have to see here. So project permissions, how we are going to provide and all everything are essentially important when we are providing some kind of permissions for the project. So here we have to do it line by line. So what further permissions we are doing here? For example, administration of the projects is what I have done so far, right? So that is what the permissions you can grant it for. So make sure whenever we are working on the projects, all these administrative activities had to be performed by an individual called Jira admin here itself. Now I'm just selecting as browse projects where I'm just updating it. Now browse projects permissions and all everything I'm giving for project role. Okay, I'm selecting admin add-on project access to the administrator here. Now for a project lead for browse permissions, all that. Now group custom field value and all everything I am just selecting for change reason. Okay, that is what generally I am giving, for example, right? So we have granted permission, you can see where you can see the permission of granted things and all everything to the project role, followed by this any logged in for the user and all everything for the change reason as given here. Now, if you want to manage permissions, for example, manage sprints. Who is sprint taking care of the sprint? Normally, sprints and all everything will be taking care of management will be done by the Scrum Masters, right? So they have to do it. Now, I am giving permissions for that only for the project lead, right? Or else, if there is a current assignee who is there, I am also giving permissions even for managing sprint to the people. And I am not giving any permissions for the sprint management and all everything either for a group or public. I am not giving for that. I'm giving only this permission only for the person who is a project lead and a current assignee, and I have done that also, right? So this is what generally manage permissions is. Now view aggregated data, right? So if you want to view aggregated data and all that, who is going to give permission here? The project lead is the person who is taking this permission, where we will be giving permission only for the that person only. Now, if you want to see the development tools, for example, what are the development tools we have and all everything. So development tools permission will be given for the project role person. For example, this role will be given here. Next, we don't give permission for public here for a single user, right? So if any user is there and all, so that user will be added here. If there is any user that can be added, otherwise not required. Next, project lead. Project lead will be given at the same time current assignee as well. So we can give permission for even for development roles, all that stuff. Now view read-only workflow means if you want to update the workflow, for example, whenever workflow and all that, again project role will be given. This is where administrator, because administrators will view the workflow, all that stuff. Next, we are giving this workflow view purpose, right? So this is not anything to be added with. So only view purpose and all that. So where I am selecting Raj Yelena as a group person. Now view workflow will be given for single user. If anybody is there, we can add, otherwise current assignee and as well as the project lead. This is where generally the done state of the view workflow has been given. Now, for example, when assignable user, right? When we talk about assignable user here, update assignable user here, update assignable user for a project role here, project lead, as well as the current assignee, right? So assigning of role has been done. Now, assigning issues, to whom we need to assign the issues, to whom we need to assign the issues. These issues will be assigned to the project lead. At the same time, whoever the users do we have, right? To whom, because make sure the users has to be updated based on the application what we are doing and all that. Now, project lead has been assigned here. I'm just assigning issues to the project lead here. Now, close issues. Again, this will be closing issues to the project lead because they are the one who has to done all that, right? So project lead was given. Next, create issues. If you want to create issues, usually project lead is the one who is going to create the issues, all that stuff. Next, project role, grant permission to the project role for the person who is now administrator, I can say. Administrator is the person who will be looking after all that, followed by the project lead. I'm just clicking on current assignee. Right? So this is what it is. Now, if you want to delete issues, okay, if you want to delete issues and all, so that will be given only for the project lead. So why am I mentioning project lead? Because project lead is taking all the control over the project along with the administrator, all that stuff. So that's the reason why being an administrator, we have to add all these issues. Now, for example, if you want to edit the issue, right, to whom we are going to edit the issue and all everything, that will be given to the project role who is called as administrator. Administrator is taking the editing of issues and all that. So they are the one who is taking that permission. You can see administrator is the person who is having an option to edit the issues, no one else apart, because you as an administrator has to take care of that. So followed by this link issues. If you want to link issues here, to whom we need to link issues. Linking of issues, I am just giving it to the project lead. Right? So we have granted permission. Next, modify reporter. Modify reporter will be only given for the project role, that too only for administrators, not for, because nobody are allowed to do that. Next, move issues. Move issues can be given to the project lead. At the same time, we give the same thing to the administrator also. Next, resolve issues. If you want to resolve any kind of issues and all, we have an option here as update. So normally this resolving of issues and all, everything will be done by the project lead people, all that stuff. So for that, generally we have to provide. At the same time, resolve issues, scheduled issues and all, everything can be any logged in user can also be updated here accordingly. So that also can be done here. Next, schedule an issue. When we talk about scheduling of issues, all that stuff, we are mentioning a scheduled of issue. Schedule of issue and all everything, any logged in user can be done, project lead can be done, and we can update it accordingly. Next, if you want to set issue for the security, that will be done by the project leader itself. Administrator has to provide that. Administrator has to provide that. Next, transition issues. If you want to transition any kind of issues, all that stuff, the transition issue and all everything will be only with the control of the administrator, because this editing and all everything, because administrator has to take all the controllers here. So whatever we have done so far about these things, like project permissions was given here, at the same time issue permissions were updated, followed by the issue permissions and all that, watchers and watcher permission. So who is going to manage watches, all that stuff we have to do, means who is going to see the issues, right, all that stuff. Who are watchers here? A project role, administrator can watch, group can watch, right? So if any group and all everything, that group can be added here. Next, public, no. Single user, anyone else apart, right? So any single user we have vetted. Next, project assign lead as well as the current assignee. Okay, manage users, manage watchers, all that. Now view watchers and watchers, right? Watchers and watchers, right? So update, right? So only view purpose for a current assignee and project lead. Okay, so these are the people, because we have to mention those people else apart here itself. Next, for example, if you want to add comment, that comments and all everything will be added by the project lead, at the same time by a current assignee. Add comments. Deleting of all comments and all everything, absolutely with the choice of the administrator here, so that we don't. Delete own comments, that will be given to the current assignee, whoever the current assignee and all, for them we have given the delete comments on that, own comments. Delete, edit all the comments, that permission must be given only to the administrators, not anyone else apart here, right? Edit comments on that. Next, edit own comments, right? If you want to edit own comments and all that, so that will be given to the current assignee, whoever is doing all that stuff. Now, if you want to create any kind of attachments, so for example, create attachments, project lead can be done, current assignee can update. Now delete all the attachments, go for update, that will be given only for administrator. Delete all attachments, that will be given to the current assignee. Next, delete all work logs. Delete all work logs, that will be given permission only for the administrator, because if anything we have to see it back and we have to see, right? So logs and all everything, so that control will be the or only with the this person, like administrator, all that stuff. Okay, that's what. So we have given only for administrator. Delete own logs. For this, normally this will be given to the current assignee. Now edit all logs. If you want to edit, update all logs, all that stuff, again that will be given only for the administrators, no one else apart. Now work on issue, right? So if you want to work on any kind of issues and all that, administrator has to take care of, project lead followed by the current assignee. So this is how generally the permissions and all everything will be taken care of, right? So this is how generally the upgradation and as well as the kind of permission schemes and all, everything has to be done by the administrator. So once everything is completed, we need to give grant permissions and all, everything here. So whenever we are giving grant permission, all that stuff means administer projects is what the permission is giving finally to an administrator, where administrator we are giving, and we are just mentioning it as grant permission, grant, right? So we have granted permission for you, means it is the permission has been granted for an administrator who is managing the application. So this is how generally this permission schemes and all, everything will be worked in Jira. Normally this is all generally we do, being in Jira admin, this permission schemes and all, everything has to be updated by us.